Hey, hey, hey. How is everyone doing this evening, morning, noon? I hope everyone's doing well. All right. Stream looks to be good. Does the audio sound good? Hopefully. Hopefully I'm not too close. All right. We'll give everybody just a second to see if there's anybody else that's going to join. And then we'll get into the news. I know quite a few of you guys actually watch after the fact, so I try not to hold up too long. I almost made 9 p.m. I know it's like 5 after, and the reason it wasn't at 9, I had a good reason. Good reason. The reason it wasn't exactly at 9 was the description's all filled out. All the links are there, so when I say the link's in the description, the link is literally in the description. It's not happening afterwards. So I am just slightly more prepared than normal, for better or for worse. All right, well, let's get into it. So I wanted to cover a little bit of business first. Let's talk about, all right, so I've been thinking, and I want your guys' input on what you guys would like, because this is really based off of what you guys would like, is I've been thinking about making this news segment its own channel, just because I don't know if people are annoyed at getting, I have a new video when it's just the news, and it also muddies up all the videos, and they're kind of different than my other videos. This is more just informative, what happened, as well as a way for me to interact with you guys kind of in real time. If you wanted to ask me a question in real time, you can. And my other videos are a lot of educational, and I try to make educational kind of fun content. So I didn't know if you guys would like that separation. I know that I actually lose a lot of subscribers on these news segments. So I didn't know if it would be better that way, or if you guys like them right here. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. Let me know. It was just something I was thinking about. There are a few changes I'm going to make coming up in the future. The first you're going to see tomorrow, I'm making kind of a fun tech video. I worked kind of hard on it. It was just a quick follow-up, and I wanted to have some fun with it, so I did. So I hope that you all like it. Don't worry, not all of them are going to be like that from now on. It's a one-off. It took something around 19 hours for my computer to render it, so you definitely won't get a ton of those because it was way too much work. But it was fun. I had fun. The other big change is going to happen in a couple weeks, so I'm not going to tell you, but it's going around my educational content. Hopefully it's going to become more educational for you guys, a little bit more structured, and yeah, so there'll be a little bit of a separation between fun and educational content, and let me know how you guys like it. We can go back to my usual content if you like to. All right, so let's get on to the news then, because I'm sure that that is what most of you join here for. I just wanted to let you know, Kubernetes 121 will be released shortly, but don't expect it to really be in the news. I might be like, hey, it's released. But that's about all that you can expect, because I do make my own release notes video on that. So make sure to watch for that, because I will release it the same day Kubernetes is released. Now, I know the release notes are out there already. I'm going over them, and but I'll make sure the video is out the same day it gets released. And don't worry, that's plenty of time, because it takes businesses months to upgrade to a new Kubernetes. So it's not like you need to know it today. All right, let's go ahead and switch on over here. All right. That's the wrong place to start. We're starting with security, like always. Everybody's favorite topic here is security. So there was 2 CVEs. I just wanted to touch base on them because I don't think the danger is as bad as it is. And it's around eBPFs and basically underflow attacks with arithmetic. These are the 2 CVEs linked in the description. I liked how Red Hat summed these up. Basically, if you have unprivileged BPF disabled by default, you're fine. It would have to be somebody with admin that would leverage one of these attacks, which really, if you do least privileges and things like that, zero trust and whatnot, nobody should be really running around with admin, and this limits the footprint. They do put it as a moderate impact, so definitely be keeping an eye on it. I also linked everybody else's, so here's Ubuntu's CVE as well as their updates to it, and here is SUSE. I said everyone. I don't mean everyone. I would say the major three. I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. I think that's the major three. And I'm not talking about like Amazon Linux. CentOS is an interesting one. It's kind of going away in my books. If you guys don't know all of that, I actually didn't report on it in the news. I should have. I didn't, though. But I will be following RockyOS in the future. I've actually emailed them. Hopefully I'm going to get an interview because I think that would be a great interview. But anyways, I'm considering these the major three. Let's move on to a little bit of cloud news. This is fun here. All right. So Microsoft has always had a bad relationship with Twitter ever after, what was it? The Taybot? I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce things. I'm sorry. It's English. It's horrible. But anyways, Microsoft had a huge outage this last week. I'm sure if you use Microsoft, you knew about it. If you don't, then you might not care. But they did, and it all came down to DNS. And it was a DNS outage, and I guess they resolved the issue, causing the impact by migrating to a highly available DNS, which is kind of weird that it wouldn't have been on a highly available DNS in the first place. But it's okay. I found the solution to their problems, and it is Amazon Route 53. Microsoft, there's a highly available DNS, and yeah. Anyways, sorry, that was just a fun joke. But Amazon Route 53 did release the Resolver DNS firewall, which is basically just a more advanced allow and disallow listing at your DNS level. So you can actually, at the Route 53 Resolver, basically put things on your not allowed list and allowed list. So this is pretty cool, and I recommend checking it out if you haven't, and if you're on an Amazon list. This way you can basically just put a disallowed list on known attackers and whatnot, bad actors. So, all right, this next one it should have been in security, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. This is Ubiquiti. I've been a huge fan of Ubiquiti. They were what I considered the best prosumer hardware you could get. And I personally run Ubiquiti hardware because, like I said, I think it's the best prosumer hardware you can get. And since I do all my work from home and whatnot, I do treat my home network as a public network. That means all of my family devices are on a different network and things like this. That being said, they've had some rough patches as of late. And the first rough patch that we can talk about, patch that we can talk about really is when they started taking analytics without letting anybody know. This was like a year ago, and they basically just made it a firmware update where their devices would phone home, and they didn't let anybody know, and they didn't really pass it by anybody either. This was okay. They backpedaled. They made it a opt-in because at first you couldn't even opt in or opt out. You just had to let them phone home whether you liked it or not. Man, my background is really messy. Like I said, I was really preparing on the content and not my office. Actually, this is also a wide-angle lens because my other lens is on another camera. But that being said, that was kind of the first thing. And now this is a little dissettling because back in December, they said that they had a breach, but they downplayed it as really minor. And they were like, you might want to think about changing your passwords. Now, they could have made it where everybody that signed in, had to reset their password or something like this. But they downplayed it as a very minor thing. Now, I luckily did change my password, so I feel like I'm pretty safe. But let's switch back over into here. So basically what this is saying is that their disclosure was insignificant, or not insignificant. Their disclosure was not didn't portray the gravity of the hack, and that there was a lot more that happened. And so you can read through. I put all these links up there. Basically, Krebs on security, or Krebs on security. I always called it Krebs on, but I think it's Krebs on security. Basically called them out and said that it was a much larger breach, and that has some insider people there. That that it was a much larger breach than what was previously disclosed, and because of this, Ubiquiti did respond, but their response was they didn't refute any of this. So basically, they didn't refute anything that was said here, and so if it's true, I'm really dissatisfied as a customer, because really, being upfront, data breaches happen, and if it's really to protect your stock price, I don't know, you'll recover from a stock. Like that's a short term. That is short term thinking. When companies do something to protect their stock price, that's shady. It's short term thinking, because especially when you're talking about router and security infrastructure, which when you're talking about the hardware of your network, you're really talking about security infrastructure. This is very much short-term thinking, in the effect that my ability to recommend it to somebody or to continue using it in the future could be hampered. Now, just because you had a breach doesn't really matter. Everybody has a breach. If every time there was a Linux breach, then nobody would run Linux, and definitely no one would run Windows or Mac OS. I keep wanting to call it. I forget. They keep changing names on it. Anyways, that being said, it's worth a read. I'm going to follow up on it because I don't necessarily know every single detail. But if this does turn out to be true, I'm kind of disappointed in them. They were kind of like the savior for prosumer hardware. All right. I personally think that Google doesn't understand the real world very well, and this is pretty much what I think happened again here. Basically, Google is putting a deadline of when their employees have to return to work. And my real question is, why? Why put a deadline on when they have to return to work when we don't know when the pandemic will actually be over? I know that it looks like it's good, and it looks like by September 1st it should be good to go. But do we know that? Is there a reason to do this? I just think that they're kind of jumping the gun a little bit. They should just wait around, check it out a little bit, instead of trying to force the issue by setting a deadline. Again, that's just me. Now, I went out there to find somebody that would disagree with me. And this person obviously does not like remote work, so go ahead and check out their article. I absolutely love remote work. I think it's the future. It's so much better than driving a car, wasting gas and our environment and my time. And you know what? I do get to see, well, when there's not a pandemic, I do get to see my coworkers every once in a while. And yeah. So anyways, I love remote work. I 100% disagree with this article, but I like bringing up content that I necessarily don't agree with. All right, so let's get into some more fun stuff. This is another GitHub article that talks about their security overview beta, as well as the general availability of secret scanning for private repositories. So basically, this is just scanning for your secrets in your private repositories. Originally, it was only for public repositories. And I know I covered this a little bit in the last one, but it's fully out there. And they released a good blog post on it with some extra data. So if you're wanting to get more into this, follow those links, read this. And yeah, it just basically shows you how to use it, how administrators can see the GitHub security features, and yeah, get a nice little dashboard. So if you use GitHub, definitely check this post out and see how your security looks. This is on imposter syndrome. I personally struggle somewhat with this. I do every single time I make a YouTube video. I'm like, man, there's going to be somebody better than me that's going to see my video, and they're going to, like find some small detail that I was wrong on. And that actually stopped me from posting videos. I have whole completed videos that I'm like, oh, I'm just not 100% happy with, and if there's a chance that somebody that's really awesome sees this, I would hate it to be out there. That being said, this guy has a really interesting take on imposter syndrome, and how he thinks it's good for software developers. And I've always said that the best software developers I've ever known are the humble ones, not the super arrogant ones, because humble anybody has a more chance of learning. When you're too arrogant, you've actually kept yourself from learning from other people, other scenarios, and you've kind of limited yourself on how far you can improve. So there's that. All right. So here's one on the cloud isn't killing open source software. I really find it weird when people say the cloud is killing open source. Is just a community of people that are writing code to solve a problem and do something. There's no way anything outside of that can kill it, unless if the government says it's illegal to write open source software. If a cloud uses it, I don't even understand this whole discussion. Like, this whole thing, both sides. Like, I don't even know how we have to defend that the cloud isn't killing open source software. If the cloud uses open source software, who cares? I mean, most of the clouds are powered by Linux. I don't really know about Azure's, but I assume that it's probably powered by Linux too. Why does it matter? I don't quite understand either side, that one says that the other is killing the other. Now, if you're talking about a company like Dynamo who changes its policy to make more money, that's not really open source. The open source project is fine, whoever is using it, whether Amazon is using it or not. It's more of the company. So anyways, here's this article. Let's get on to projects, because those are so much more fun, and we have actually some cool projects that got some releases. So here is Vault 1.7. So if I've talked about never put your secrets in Git, and I feel like I have to say it every time I talk about secrets, don't put them in Git. Vault is one of the solutions out there for secret management, and Vault 1.7 is out and available. So here are the release notes. I linked them. There are some interesting things here around storage autopilot and Terraform Cloud Secret Engine. So here's some of the release notes. It came out with some pretty cool things. I haven't actually used Vault in like a year. So I need to get a deployment of it back up and running. And I've been using Secret Manager, and I actually think I like Vault better than Secret Manager. Secret Manager is simpler to use, but more complicated to set up and maintain. At least that's my feeling on it. So, but then it's simpler to use once you have it. So I don't know what the trade-off is there. Well, I mean, that is the trade-off there. All right. Another one from HashiCorp is I don't know how to pronounce this. I pronounce it Consul. So the Consul Terraform sync is now generally available, and basically this is, if you don't know what CTS is, it is the way to basically manage network infrastructure through Terraform. So this project is now generally available. This is basically when HashiCorp says it's ready for prime time, and so it's out there, and it allows you to manage your network infrastructure automation. So it's pretty cool, especially if you're heavy into Consul and Terraform. This is what really powers it, because it uses the Consul API gateway, or service mesh, not API gateway, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. All right. And then this one. I love Argo. I love all things Argo. If you're like, oh, ArgoWorkflows, and you've heard me talk about Argo CD. That is because ArgoWorkflows is what powers Argo CD. Hence the same little guy, fun guy here. Hence same project, see Argo project. You have Argo CD and ArgoWorkflows. ArgoWorkflows actually powers a whole lot more than just Argo CD. So we'll go back to Argo CD here. My internet is horrible while streaming. But all right, so ArgoWorkflows powers a whole lot. If you go through here and look, yeah, there's the big one is Kubeflow. So I know that I do some Kubeflow, and I have a Kubeflow video that I'm probably going to get done hopefully before 1.3 gets released. But I'm also going to do a video on Kubeflow 1.3. But ArgoWorkflows is the basics for Argo CD, Argo Kubeflow pipelines, SQL Flow. All of these use ArgoWorkflow. So anyways, they released 3.0, which brings in a whole new UI. This whole UI has been super refined in the 3.0 release here. And yeah, but basically, if you don't know what it is, it's a orchestrating parallel jobs on Kubernetes. So basically doing a bunch of things in parallel. Think of it as threading for Kubernetes. That's what ArgoWorkflows are. And it's released 3.0. So go check it out. Pat any of them on the back that you know. These are fantastic people on the Argo team. And yeah. All right, let's jump on to the next thing. This is an interesting project. This is an interesting project. One second, I just need a quick sip. All right, interesting project here is NerdCTL. I just came across this week. It seems like it actually has been around for quite a while, and it solves an interesting problem. And this is the problem. So you know that Docker is not deprecated from Kubernetes. I really hate how that's spun, but Docker is a user interface, and then containerd is the actual container runtime per se. English is hard, and I suck at it. But containerd command line really actually is not great. It's hard to use and is basically meant just to test containerd. It's meant to be able to test the API and whatnot, not to actually use it. And basically, that's where NerdCTL comes in. It's the exact same as Docker. So if you are accustomed to running a Docker command, it does the exact same things Docker would do. And this is pretty awesome. There are some differences. First, it's made for containerd, which I guess so is Docker, but Docker runs its own stuff over top of containerd, which is the problem. But it also supports rootless mode, lazy pooling, and encrypted images. So I think it's actually a pretty cool thing. It's not really meant to replace Docker because Docker gives you like Docker Compose and some stuff like this. So it's not necessarily a complete it's not a complete switch up or a replacement for Docker. But if you're using containerd and you need a CLI for it because the CLI for containerd is actually horrible, here's a choice. So anyways, I wanted to let you guys know. I think it's pretty cool. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next project. The next project is Protocol Fuzzer. So I thought this was cool. Basically, last year sometime, GitLab purchased Peach Tech, and they have this protocol API fuzz testing thing. I actually haven't ever used this, so I'm interested to get my hands on it. But they added some new features like Postman support and then released it with a community edition. Now, they released it as a community edition, which obviously means that they are also going to have a paid version for themselves still. But this is really cool because they actually improved the community edition and added features to it. So I think it's something cool to check out. I haven't actually checked it out more than I saw it, I think, Thursday, and read up on it a little. But basically, it's an API fuzz testing. Kind of like the chaos mesh that we talked about last week. Last week was chaos mesh, or the week before. I think it was last week. So yep, they did that. The only real problem I see with it is it doesn't. It's not on GitHub. You have to go on GitLab. So go ahead, check it out. The link is in the description. It's already there. It's already in the description. All right. So I know that, with like SolarGate and SolarWinds, we've been talking about package and artifact signing, and here is artifact signing, Notary. Reason why this comes up, it's actually been around for a little while, a year or two. Let's see. At least since 2018. The reason this came up was that it is been accepted into the CNCF. So I thought this was a good time to bring it up in the news, talk about it a little bit, what it does, and how it solves some problems. So basically, it was accepted into the CNCF. If you don't know what the CNCF is, the CNCF is basically another Apache. It's a open source foundation to manage open source projects and to protect them. Anyways, it was accepted into the CNCF, and it's basically a client server for signing your packages or your artifacts, and allows you to then publish these artifacts with some form of trust signing. So yeah, that is what it does. I don't know what else to tell you about it. I was trying to think of something cool to say, but it basically signs your packages and then lets people verify that that package or that artifact came from you. So it's kind of what artifact signing is. So, like I said previously, all those links are already in the description. I'm going to try to do that from now on, and I'm going to try to go live right at 9. And maybe clean up the room behind me a little bit. But that's pretty much it for me tonight. I thank you everybody for joining me. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to post them in chat. Also, make sure that you're tweeting at me, that you're leaving comments here, or joining the Discord and letting me know what it is that you'd like to see covered. If you're part of a project that you'd like to get a shout out on here, I would love to give your project a shout out. So if you're on an open source project and would like to see it mentioned here, let me know. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to say talk to you guys later. See you next week. Hope you liked the episode. Hope you're liking the updates to the channel. I'm going to try to, do some more fun videos as well as some more streamlined educational content. Please feel free to leave me comments and criticisms for whatever you'd like to see. And I'll see you guys next week.